In a small apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Emily Johnson was quietly sipping her morning coffee. Outside the window, the cold October wind was swirling up the fallen leaves. Deep lines of fatigue from the past year were etched on her face. About a year ago, her life had completely changed. Emily remembered the day her 10-year-old daughter Lily disappeared from the nearby Wilson Park as if it were yesterday. It was a Saturday, and Lily had gone to the park to play with her friends. When Emily went to the park that evening, worried because Lily hadn't come home, her daughter was nowhere to be found. The police conducted a massive search for 3 weeks, but not a single clue about Lily was discovered. The park pond was thoroughly investigated, and the surrounding forest was searched from corner to corner, but not even a trace was left behind. The police finally concluded that Lily had met with an accident and was probably kidnapped and killed, officially declaring her dead. However, since no body was found, hope never died in Emily's heart that her daughter might still be alive somewhere. Emily's parents, Robert and Margaret, were living a quiet retirement in the small town of Middlebury, Vermont. After Lily's disappearance, her parents had visited Emily several times, but faced with their daughter's deep grief, they didn't know what words of comfort to offer, and eventually they had grown distant. Emily's sister Rachel lived in Hartford, Connecticut, with her husband Michael. Rachel had been undergoing fertility treatment for 10 years but had never been able to conceive. Michael, who worked as an accountant, was a kind husband who supported Rachel's treatment both financially and emotionally, but there was a quiet tension between them born from their desperate longing for a child. After Lily's disappearance, Rachel began visiting Emily frequently. She understood Emily's grief and tried to support her sister. However, Emily sometimes sensed complex emotions in her sister's gaze. When Rachel looked at Lily's photographs, her eyes seemed to hold not just love, but something like an inexplicable yearning. Emily had worked as a graphic designer, but after Lily's disappearance, she couldn't concentrate on work and had taken several months off. While receiving counseling, she gradually tried to return to normal life, but life without her daughter felt empty and meaningless. Lily's room was kept exactly as it had been on the day she disappeared. On the bed surrounded by pink wallpaper sat her beloved teddy bear, and on the desk lay unfinished homework. Every night, Emily made it a habit to visit that room and bury her face in the pillow that might still hold her daughter's scent, shedding tears. The neighbors had been sympathetic at first, but as time passed, they began to avoid Emily. The presence of a grieving mother reminded other families of an uncomfortable reality they didn't want to face. Emily gradually became isolated, with Rachel's regular visits being her only support. However, deep in Emily's heart, her maternal instinct was quietly whispering. Lily was still alive. This conviction couldn't be explained by logical thinking, but it continued to burn like a small flame in the deep part of her soul. Sometimes, when she spotted a girl from behind who resembled Lily on the street, Emily's heart would pound violently, and she couldn't help but chase after her. But the face that turned around was always that of a stranger. Emily's birthday was quietly approaching, but she had no desire to celebrate. A birthday without Lily seemed meaningless. Her twice-weekly sessions with Dr. Martin, her counselor, were Emily's only emotional support. At a small clinic in Cambridge, the gentle Dr. Martin patiently listened to Emily's stories. At every session, Emily repeated the same question. "I think Lily is still alive. As a mother, I can feel it." Dr. Martin smiled gently and replied, "Emily, it's natural to have such feelings. When we lose someone we love, our hearts sometimes refuse to accept reality. It's one of our defense mechanisms." However, Emily's conviction never wavered. When she woke up in the middle of the night, she felt as though she could hear Lily's voice. Sometimes, she heard small footsteps in the apartment hallway. Logically, she knew it was auditory hallucinations, but those sounds were also a comfort to her.
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
6 months had passed since she returned to work. Emily worked at a small advertising agency in Boston, handling logo design and brochure creation for clients. Her colleagues understood her situation and were careful not to burden her excessively, but Emily herself tried to escape from the pain in her heart by concentrating on work. When she came home from work, Emily repeated the same routine every day. First, she would visit Lily's room and say, "Welcome home," to her daughter's photograph. Then she would make a simple dinner and eat alone while watching television. She often stayed up late, not falling asleep until after midnight. Perhaps she was afraid of sleeping. Every time she met Lily in her dreams, the reality upon waking became even more painful. Rachel visited without fail once a week. Her sister's devoted support was precious to Emily. Rachel helped with shopping, shared household chores, and sometimes they watched movies together. However, recently there seemed to be some change in Rachel. She appeared calmer than before, as if she had found some inner peace. "How's the fertility treatment going?" Emily asked one day. Rachel hesitated a little before answering. "Actually, I've decided to take a break for a while. After continuing for 10 years, I've become exhausted. Michael feels the same way, and now we're considering other options." "Adoption?" "Yes. But we're still undecided. It's difficult to find the right child." Rachel's expression didn't have the despair it used to. Instead, there was something like a complex satisfaction, as if she was harboring a secret. Emily wondered about her sister's change but didn't pursue it deeply. Contact from her parents came about once a month. Robert and Margaret were trying to understand their daughter's pain and support Emily in their own way. However, their phone conversations were always awkward, with both sides not knowing what to talk about. "Emily, why don't you come stay with us for a while and rest?" her mother Margaret had suggested once. "In Vermont's quiet environment, you might be able to heal your heart." However, Emily declined. Leaving Cambridge felt like moving away from Lily. What would happen if her daughter came home and her mother wasn't there? Such anxiety kept Emily tied to her home. The relationship with neighbors had subtly changed over time. The initial sympathy gradually faded, and people returned to their daily lives. Occasionally, when she met acquaintances at the supermarket, they would exchange only brief greetings with awkward expressions. Emily's presence reminded other mothers of an uncomfortable reality, the fear that the same thing could happen to their own children. The morning of Emily's birthday began with gray, cloudy skies. She woke up before the alarm went off and lay in bed for a while, staring at the ceiling. Last year on her birthday, Lily had made her a handmade card. Flowers drawn with colorful crayons and a message written in childish letters: "Happy birthday, Mommy. I love you most in the world." That card was still carefully displayed on Emily's bedroom dresser. Taking the day off work to spend alone, Emily traced memories of Lily while drinking her coffee on her birthday morning. Giving Lily her first bicycle for her 5th birthday. When she was 7, baking a cake together and covering the kitchen with flour. The summer vacation when she was 9, when the two of them traveled to the Maine coast. Everything came back vividly. In the afternoon, Rachel called. "Happy birthday, Emily. How are you spending the day?" "I'm relaxing at home. I don't feel like doing anything special." "I see. I thought it would be better to leave you alone today. But if you get lonely, call me anytime." Rachel's voice was kind, but there was also an impression that she was in a hurry. The call ended quickly. In the evening, Emily spent a long time in Lily's room for the first time in a while. Sitting on her daughter's bed, she was reading through Lily's diary. The innocent descriptions typical of a 10-year-old girl continued. School events, playing with friends, future dreams. On the last page was writing from 3 days before she disappeared. Today I went to the park with Mommy. I was happy that Mommy smiled. I hope Mommy will always be happy. I love Mommy so much. While staring at those words, the doorbell rang. Emily headed to the front door, still holding Lily's diary to her chest. The doorbell rang a second time. Looking through the peephole, she saw a mail carrier standing outside. It was past 6 p.m., well beyond normal delivery hours. Ms. Johnson. Special delivery. The delivery man seemed a little out of breath and appeared to be sweating. Sorry for the late hour. This got mixed up with another delivery route this morning by mistake. We thought it might be urgent, so I made a special trip to deliver it. Emily received the envelope. The address was indeed written with her name and address, but the moment she saw the sender section, her hands began to shake. Lily Johnson. Those letters were unmistakably Lily's handwriting. Emily forgot to thank the delivery man, closed the door, and opened the envelope with trembling hands. What came out was thin pink stationery. The flower-patterned stationery that Lily had loved to use. There, in her daughter's round letters, a message was written. Mommy, happy birthday. I've been waiting for so long. I want to see Mommy. This is an unknown place, but there are kind people here. But Mommy isn't here and... The writing ended there. As if she had been interrupted by something while writing. Emily's heart was pounding violently. When she checked the envelope again, the postmark was dated yesterday, and the return address was Windsor, a small town in New Hampshire. Emily collapsed onto the living room sofa. For over a year, she had continued to believe in her daughter's survival, but when actually confronted with such evidence, it didn't feel real. She read the letter over and over, checking the handwriting. There was no mistake. This was Lily's writing. However, she also felt fear. Where was Lily? Why had there been no contact until now? And why did the writing end abruptly? Had something happened to her daughter? Emily picked up her cell phone with trembling fingers and tried to call the police. But she stopped just before dialing. The police had already treated Lily as deceased. If she showed them this letter, they might think it was a prank or Emily's delusion. She thought she needed to go to Windsor first and check for herself. When she searched for the address on the internet, Windsor was a small town in southern New Hampshire with a population of about 3,000. It was about a 2-hour drive from Cambridge. The address written on the envelope appeared to be in a residential area on the outskirts of town. Emily picked up her car keys without hesitation. It was already getting dark outside, but she wanted to see Lily as soon as possible. Her 39th birthday was about to take an unexpected turn. While driving north on the highway, Emily's heart was filled with complex emotions. Joy, fear, anxiety, hope. There was also relief that the intuition she had held for a year had been correct. But at the same time, questions raced through her mind about what kind of life Lily had been living for the past year and why she hadn't been able to contact her. Just after 8 p.m., Emily arrived in the town of Windsor. The small town streetlights were dim, and most of the shops had their shutters down. Following the GPS to the residential area, she found an orderly neighborhood that looked like a new housing development. The house at the address written in the letter was a 2-story white house. The yard had well-maintained flower beds, and warm light glowed from the entrance. Emily parked her car on the shoulder and stared at the house for a while. Was Lily really in this house? Steeling herself, she got out of the car and headed for the entrance. Before pressing the doorbell, she peered through the window to observe the inside. The living room light was on, and she could see the glow from a television. There were signs of people, but she couldn't clearly see what was happening inside. Emily took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell. She heard footsteps from inside, and eventually the door opened. Standing there was a woman she recognized. However, it wasn't Lily, but Emily's sister, Rachel. Emily. Rachel's face was pale and clearly upset. Rachel? Why are you here? Emily was confused. I received a letter from Lily. From this address. Rachel's expression stiffened for a moment. A letter? What are you talking about? This. Emily took out the letter. Lily wrote it. It's definitely Lily's handwriting. Is Lily here? Rachel stared at the letter and then sighed deeply. Emily, come inside. I'll explain. Emily followed Rachel into the house. The living room was warmly decorated with a family atmosphere. However, Emily's eyes were drawn to something placed in the corner of the room. It was Lily's beloved teddy bear. That's. Emily pointed. Lily's teddy bear. Why is it here? At that moment, footsteps could be heard from upstairs. A girl came down the stairs. Her hair was a little longer than before, and her clothes were different, but that face was unmistakably the daughter Emily had been searching for over a year. Lily. Emily's voice caught. The girl stared at Emily, but there was confusion in her expression. As if she didn't know who Emily was. Who is this person? The girl asked Rachel. Emily's heart nearly stopped. Lily didn't recognize her. Her daughter didn't remember the mother she had lived with every day until a year ago. Rachel placed her hand on the girl's shoulder and spoke gently. It's okay, Lucy. This is my sister. Lucy? Emily was stunned. You are my daughter, Lily Johnson. The girl shook her head. I'm Lucy Harrison. Mommy, what is this person saying? The girl called Rachel Mommy. Emily felt as if her world was crumbling. The hope and despair she had held for a year, and now the reality happening before her eyes. Everything was confusing. Rachel. Emily's voice was shaking. Explain. Right now. What is this about? Rachel sighed deeply and spoke gently to the girl. Lucy, go back to your room and do your homework. The adults need to talk. But Mommy, the girl looked at Emily anxiously. This person has a scary face. It's okay. I'll come up soon. Rachel stroked the girl's head. The girl went upstairs, but halfway up she turned back, looked at Emily once more, and then disappeared. That gesture, that expression, everything was Lily's. But her daughter didn't remember her mother at all. Sit down, Emily. Rachel pointed to the sofa. This is going to be a long story. Emily remained standing, staring at her sister. Explain. Right now. Why is Lily here? Why does that child think you're her mother? Rachel stood by the window, looking out at the darkness as she began to speak. Do you remember that day when Lily went missing in the park? Of course. It was the worst day of my life. I was at the park that day too. Rachel turned around. You didn't know, but... Emily's blood drained from her face. What are you saying? For 10 years, Michael and I had been wanting a child. 10 years, Emily. Every month, hoping and then despairing. I was exhausted from that life. And you had Lily, a beautiful daughter. The happiness you took for granted was what I had been seeking for 10 years. Rachel's voice was filled with years of pain. But that doesn't mean. Emily said in a trembling voice. Surely you didn't. At first, it was by chance. Rachel continued. That day, I was passing through the park on my way to visit you. And there was Lily, sitting alone on a swing, crying. She said she had fought with her friends. While I was comforting her, Lily suddenly said, "I want to live with Aunt Rachel." Emily felt like she couldn't breathe. And then, at that moment, something broke inside me. 10 years of fertility treatment, monthly disappointments, guilt toward my husband, everything overflowed at once. And Lily said it again. "Mommy always seems busy and doesn't have time for me. Aunt Rachel is kinder." Emily felt her knees about to give way. Indeed, at that time, she had been busy with work and couldn't spend enough time with Lily. I acted impulsively. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes. I suggested to Lily, "Why don't we go for a little drive?" Lily happily got in the car. And then, just like that, you took her away. Emily's voice shook with anger. At first, I only intended it to be for one day. But seeing Lily enjoying spending time with me, I thought just a little longer. And after a few days, when I learned that you all had started a massive search, I couldn't turn back anymore. Emily stood up and confronted Rachel. "You kidnapped my daughter. Do you understand how much I've suffered for a year?" "I understand." Rachel began to cry. But Lily seemed happy. "We loved her and took good care of her. We changed her name to Lucy, educated her through homeschooling, and raised her safely in an environment isolated from the outside world. What about her memory? Why doesn't Lily remember me?" Rachel looked away. "For the first few months, Lily was looking for you. She cried and wanted to go home. So What did you do?" "With our parents' help, we found a counselor. Not an official counselor, of course. But using techniques like hypnotherapy, we gradually changed Lily's memories." Emily was appalled. "Are the parents involved too?" "Papa and Mama had seen my 10 years of suffering. And seeing Lily living happily with us, they thought this was destiny. Papa, as a local influential person, helped arrange the necessary documents. Birth certificates, school records, everything." Emily leaned against the wall. It was an unbelievable reality. Her entire family had been involved in her daughter's kidnapping. But what about today's letter? Why did Lily write to me? That was unexpected. Rachel shook her head. Lately, Lucy's behavior had been strange. Sometimes she would mention unknown names or talk about her previous home. The effects of the hypnotherapy might be wearing off. And today, while I was out shopping, Lucy asked our neighbor, Mrs. Green, to mail a letter. She said, "Please send a birthday card to Mommy." Mrs. Green didn't know the circumstances, so she kindly took it to the post office. Emily began to understand. That's why the writing was cut off. "You came back and..." "Yes." I found Lucy hurriedly trying to give the letter to the neighbor. But it was too late. The card had already been mailed. Lily's memory is starting to come back. Little by little. But she's confused. The memories of two lives, two families are mixed together. At that moment, footsteps could be heard from the stairs. The girl came down again. In her hand was a small stuffed animal. "Mommy, I have something to ask about this stuffed animal." The girl approached Rachel. "I saw it in a dream. In another house, with another mommy." Emily's heart pounded violently. "What was the mommy in that dream like?" Emily asked quietly. The girl stared intently at Emily. "She looked like you." After a moment of silence, the girl continued. "That mommy always seemed busy, but she loved me very much. And my name was..." "What was it?" Emily's voice trembled. "Lily." The girl whispered softly. Lily Johnson. At that moment, something returned to the girl's eyes. Fragments of memory seemed to be connecting. Mommy. The girl took a step toward Emily. Are you my real mommy? Emily nodded while crying. Yes, Lily. I'm your real mommy. Lily was confused but instinctively walked toward Emily. After more than a year, mother and daughter embraced again. I'm sorry, Mommy. I'm sorry I forgot. Lily said while crying. It's okay, Lily. Everything's okay now. Emily held her daughter tightly. Rachel collapsed onto the sofa. We loved her. We really loved her. If you loved her, why did you separate her from her mother? Emily's voice shook with anger and sadness. I was wrong. Rachel covered her face with her hands. But it's too late to take it back now. Emily took out her cell phone. I'm calling the police. Wait. Rachel stood up. Michael doesn't know anything. He's on a business trip and thinks Lucy is my relative's child. Don't involve him. Do you understand the gravity of the crime you committed? Emily began making the call. I understand. Rachel said while crying. But for this past year, I was truly a mother. For the first time, I was able to feel real happiness. 6 months later, spring in Cambridge was a season of new beginnings for Emily and Lily. At Wilson Park, mother and daughter were enjoying a picnic together for the first time in a long while. Lily had been afraid of the memory of going missing here, but thanks to continued counseling with Dr. Martin, she was gradually overcoming that fear. Mommy, there's my friend Sarah's birthday party next weekend. Can I go? Lily's face had regained the brightness typical of an 11-year-old girl. Although the confusion of memories wasn't completely resolved, she had adapted to her current life and made new friends. Thanks to a special care program in coordination with the school counselor, Lily was able to build normal relationships with children her age. Of course. I've talked with Sarah's mother too, so don't worry. Emily's expression no longer showed the despair from a year ago. The joy of getting her daughter back had given new meaning to her life. She could concentrate on work again, and recently she had started volunteer activities with an NPO involved in child protection. Rachel and Michael, as well as her parents Robert and Margaret, had been arrested and put on trial. Rachel was charged with kidnapping, and her parents were charged with conspiracy. Michael had no evidence proving his involvement in the incident and escaped prosecution, but deeply shocked by his wife's actions, he was proceeding with divorce procedures. Mommy, I sometimes think about Aunt Rachel. Lily murmured while sitting on the grass. I know she did something wrong, but it's also true that she was kind to me. Emily understood her daughter's complex feelings. 1 year was a long period for a 10-year-old child, equivalent to 1/10 of her life. It was impossible to completely deny the relationship she had built with Rachel during that time. I think Rachel's love for you was real. But her way of expressing that love was wrong. Emily explained gently. True love puts the other person's happiness first. Separating you from us wasn't for your happiness. Lily nodded. Through counseling, she was trying to understand the situation in her own way. Mommy, I am your daughter, and I'm Lily Johnson, right? Yes. You are my precious daughter, Lily Johnson. During these past few months, Emily had thought deeply about the definition of family. Is it only blood ties that make a family, or do love and trust create a family? Rachel's actions were unforgivable, but her love for the child was not fake. However, she realized that true love respects the other person's free will and wishes for their genuine happiness. Mommy, can we go to the Maine coast again this summer vacation? I'm gradually remembering when we went there together before. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. Of course. This time let's make it a special trip just for the two of us. As the sunset painted the park golden, mother and daughter walked home hand in hand. The lost time would never return, but the time they would build from now on was theirs. When they returned to the apartment, there was a letter in the mailbox. The sender was Rachel. Emily hesitated but opened the letter. Emily, I won't ask you to forgive the sin I committed. But please believe that I loved Lily. I sincerely wish for her to grow up happily. It was a short message, but it contained genuine regret and love. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Emily visited her daughter's room. Just like a year ago, Lily was sleeping peacefully. But this time, she knew for certain that she would be there in the morning. Good night, Lily. Tomorrow will surely be another wonderful day. Emily kissed her daughter's forehead and quietly left the room. Her new life, having learned what family and love truly meant, was quietly beginning.